This is the Joroto X1s, and in this video we're going to unbox it, build it, and I'm going to give you my very first impressions of it. So in general, the Joroto X1s is like the little brother to the Joroto X2, which I do have a full review on the Joroto X2 if you have not seen that. The big difference between these two bikes is the X2 is magnetic resistance and the X1s is friction resistance. At the time I'm recording this video, the Joroto X1s costs $340, but I do have a discount link below this video to get a discount on that bike. Also, that same discount can be used for the Joroto X2. So both the Joroto X2 and the Joroto X1s are belt-driven bikes. The Joroto X1s has a 35-pound flywheel. Additionally, the X1s is the updated version of the previous, and on this model there is Cadence built into the mini screen. We'll get more into the mini screen and what metrics are displayed on this bike in just a few. Also, before we open up the box, I want to let you know the max user weight for the X1s is 280 pounds as listed by the manufacturer, and the bike weighs a net weight of 85 pounds. In general, the Joroto X1s and also the Joroto X2 are relatively light bikes compared to bigger bikes like the Peloton Bike Plus and like the Nordic Track S22i. So smaller bikes are easier to maneuver around, and you could tuck them away in a closet or get them out of the way more easily. Also, Joroto does offer a 1-year parts replacement on either of these bikes. So just in case something does go wrong with your Joroto bike, they will send you replacement parts for that first year. And one last difference between the X2 and the X1s is the X1s is 3-way adjustable, whereas the X2 is 4-way adjustable. So now with all the basics out of the way, we'll unbox the X1s and build it, but before we do that, I have a favor to ask from you. Would you please give this video a thumbs up because it really helps support this channel. Also, any questions or comments you have, please leave down in the comment section below this video, and I'll do my best to get back to you. So thank you if you did click that thumbs up button. So with that said, let's open up the X1s, build it, and take our first look at it. Always cut the box open at the bottom and lift it up like this. So much easier. Alright, got everything unboxed on the Joroto X1s, and I want to give you my very first impressions of the first things I noticed after I unboxed it. Obviously, for one, it looks very similar to the Joroto X2. There are a few differences. The handlebars, for one, first thing I noticed is grabbing them. They are actually a little bit thicker. I'll measure it here in just a moment. The second major thing about the handlebars is they fixed the water bottle design problem of the Joroto X2. So now there's basically just a massive tablet holder up here. And in comparison, over here on the Joroto X2, they had water bottles here. So you really couldn't put a tablet here and also use the dual water bottle holders at the same time. Now, obviously, it's not a big problem really, but they did fix it on the X1s. Also on the X1s, you can see there's a little lip on the bottom of the tablet holder, so it will hold your tablet in better. On the X2, you can see that there is not a lip on there, so you're not quite as secure with a tablet. And speaking of water bottle holder, on the Joroto X1s, you get an actual water bottle holder here, and it just goes right up here on the side, so yeah, it's out of the way. This is what the handlebar stem looks like on the Joroto X1s. You do get micro adjustments, no hole to click into. The thing that I am observing here is there is not a forward and backward adjustability for the handlebars on the X1s. On the Joroto X2, you do get that forward and backward handlebar adjustment. As far as I can tell, the seat on both the Joroto X2 and the Joroto X1 are identical. Both the seat for the Joroto X1s as well as the Joroto X2 are very beginner friendly. They are a wide saddle. They have a decent amount of squish to them, but there's not too much springiness action going on underneath. I think most beginners would be pretty happy with this saddle. I don't think you'll need any sort of like gel cover, and I don't think that you'd need any like riding shorts or anything to be comfortable on this saddle. Also, there is blue Loctite on the threading, so these pedals will be more likely to stay on and not come unscrewed on you, as well as you get this nut on the back side to help keep the pedal on. Some other bikes I have reviewed have had problems with the pedals coming loose, but that Loctite and the nut on the back of the pedal really helps prevent that from happening. Taking a look at the seat post stem, they look to be almost identical. The only difference I can see is the adjustment knob is a little bit different. Oh, I almost missed something actually. It appears that there is more adjustability, one additional slot on the X2. So it looks like the X1s goes to 8 and then stop. The X2 goes to 9 and then stop. It looks like the holes are spaced about the exact same far apart on each machine. So I'll do a little comparison of max seat height here in just a little bit. And here's what the display looks like on the Joroto X1s in comparison to the display on the X2. Aside from the appearance, the big difference of this X1s screen is Cadence is displayed on the screen supposedly, but we will check that out and see how that works in just a moment. The screen does run on battery, so you don't need to plug it into the wall, and they do give you the batteries for the screen. The stability feet for the X1s appear to be the exact same as on the X2, and it appears like it's going to be a very simple build process. Oh, and of course the flywheels. The flywheels do have a little bit different pattern on them. You can see that this X1s has just, a little bit different pattern. I do kind of like the pattern on both of them. They have this chromed accent. Oh, and of course, let's not overlook the biggest difference between the X1s and the X2. The X1s is a friction resistance pad. It has a little felt pad here, which we'll take a closer look in just a little bit. As comparison, the Joroto X2 has magnetic resistance, and this is kind of what it looks like here on the X2. The X2 resistance knob is the exact same as the resistance knob on the X1s. Here's what the toolkit looks like. You just get a few bolts, a couple wrenches, and it looks like it's gonna be super easy. Get your bolts out. So get the front stabilizer bar and actually flip it over and then drop in your 2 long bolts here. Make sure you have the wheels facing forward and then kind of just pick up this entire assembly and set it on top. The reason you put those bolts in there before you do this is because you won't be able to get them in there unless you do it this way. Drop on your washer and put the nut on top. Just make sure you rotate this bolt on the bottom so that it pops into place. It will need to line up and pop through. Get your wrench out and tighten them up. Same thing on the back here. Get your bolt, flip this thing over, drop them in, and flip it over. Lift up the back and slide the whole thing under. Reach on down there and push the bolt through. And repeat. Get your knob, put it in here. Whoa! Grab your seat post, the back goes back. And then just tighten it up so it doesn't wobble on you, but you don't know where your seat's gonna go yet, but just eventually when you get it in place, make sure you tighten that up. Get your seat out, pop it on top here, get the wrenches out and tighten it down. So tightening the seat down, just remember you want to tighten the right a little bit and the left and just kind of alternate to keep it balanced. Also, before you start tightening everything down, make sure you have it lined up this way and also make sure you have it like kind of flat so you don't have to go back and redo everything. Next, you drop the handlebar post in here, grab this knob here and put it on front. And the next step is to take these 4 bolts and put the handlebars on. Oh my goodness. I did not put this thing on there. I did not know you're supposed to put this underneath. I have to do it over. So I actually did have a considerably difficult time getting these handlebars on. First and foremost, I would like to point out, do not forget to put your screen mount up on here first. So you put the screen mount right here and then the handlebars go underneath of it. And I had a really difficult time getting these bolts to line up, and the reason is because the grip, the rubber material on the handlebars kind of sticks up and prevents the head of the bolt from getting over. So the only way I found how to be able to actually get all of them lined up, get the bottom ones in first and just turn them like 1 or 2 turns, just barely in, and leave like a lot of slack so you can kind of get some separation down here. And then on the top, what you have to do is kind of just pull the whole handlebar assembly away so you can get the head of this bolt over and then line up the threading. So it was actually really quite difficult for me to do. So if you are having a difficult time getting your bolts aligned up here on the handlebars, just try to follow those tips where you just kind of leave a little separation there so you can get everything lined up and then start tightening them up. So then just go around to the 4 corners and tighten them all up. And the last step is to put the pedals on. The right pedal turns normal. The left pedal is counter threaded, so just turn it the opposite way to tighten it. Then the final step here is to put the water bottle holder on right there. All right, got the Joroto X1s built. Now we're gonna get on and I'm gonna give you my very first impressions of this bike. But before we do that, please give this video a thumbs up if you're finding this information useful. So here's what the little mini screen up on front looks like. All you gotta do is just kind of turn the pedals over and it'll turn right on. Makes a little beep noise there. Let's go ahead and peel off this plastic wrap. So up here on the screen, there's a scan mode, there's time, there is calories, distance, and RPM, which is cadence. My first observation of the screen here is it is a little bit difficult to read the print. It's kind of small, but I guess once you know where everything is, you kind of just know you don't need to like read the actual words. Also, it shows speed over here, so it's alternating between RPM, which is cadence, and speed. So this isn't really like a comparison video, but in terms of like the screen and metrics, one, I think the Joroto X1s screen actually looks a little bit better than the screen that comes on the Joroto X2. And also, this one does give you your cadence on it. So, you know, like on the Joroto X2, if you want your cadence, you have to get like the Wahoo cadence sensor or some sort of external cadence sensor, which isn't a big deal, but at least you get that cadence directly on the Joroto X1s. Also, other first observations, the max seat height appears to be a little bit higher on the Joroto X2, just by like one click, but you know, if you are a tall person, you might want to consider the X2 for the saddle height reason alone. So both the saddle heights are set on the maximum height, and I put this little board up here. I don't know if you can like really tell in the video if it's level, but I can tell that the Joroto X2C is actually probably about an inch or 2 inches higher than the X1s. Also, looking at the handlebars up front, they are both on the maximum settings, and the Joroto X2 handlebars come up considerably higher. I would say probably 2 to 3 inches higher. Right here, side by side up front, you can see that the Joroto X2 handlebars definitely come up quite a bit higher. So in terms of the actual size, it seems like the X1s would be a better fit for a shorter individual, whereas, you know, if you're taller, the X2 would probably be the better option for you. Okay, so let's get on the Joroto X1s and just see what it feels like to get on and ride. What does the drivetrain feel like, especially in comparison to the Joroto X2? So obviously, this is a friction resistance bike on the X1s. Okay, so up on the Joroto X1s, just kind of feeling out the drivetrain, seeing what this bike feels like. Basically no resistance on here right now. Flywheel's turning over nice and easy. Nice, easy, medium level cadence here. Looks like it's showing my speed at 20 RPMs at, showing my RPMs at 90, right around 97. Speed is 22.9. So maybe those numbers are reading a little bit higher, like, so, you know, I don't feel like I'm riding at a speed, honestly, where I'm going 21 miles an hour. The cadence is displaying 83, 92. Let's add on a little bit of resistance. So the good old felt friction pad resistance. Got a little bit of resistance on there. It actually feels fine in terms of like a basic indoor cycling bike, just to get on and get like some exercise on. The resistance feels fairly smooth actually for like a felt resistance pad. You could definitely get a good workout in on this thing. Adding on a little bit more resistance here. Definitely like a good little medium resistance going on here. I'd say probably, this is probably about equal to about 40 on the Peloton where I'm at right now. Just a couple turns from there on over, kind of probably brings me up more to about like 60 on the Peloton. So the thing about friction resistance bikes is like, as you add on more and more resistance, it kind of gets like less and less smooth. So like the drivetrain comparison between like the X2 and the X1s, the X2 like feels more smooth because it's magnetic resistance, but just the way like the resistance works on this bike, like it's getting like really, really heavy now, like super heavy, like a higher max resistance than the X2, but it's like not as smooth. So like, I mean, this is a really high resistance. Oh yeah. So I mean, if you want a bike that has like an extremely high resistance, the X1s has like the ability to like really put that brake down on there, and it applies like this physical resistance pad here. And the max resistance on the X1s is like definitely higher than the Joroto X2. That being said, the Joroto X2, which I'm on now, feels more smooth. Let me crank this thing up to max just to remember what it's like. Oh yeah, this is like a really high max resistance. So the max resistance on the Joroto X2 actually is like pretty strong, but the max resistance on the Joroto X1s is definitely higher. I need to do a full comparison against the Peloton Bike Plus in terms of resistance conversion for the X2, but off the top of my head, I would say this resistance feels like about 60 on the Peloton Bike Plus. And on the Joroto X2, it just kind of feels more smooth because it's magnetic, but you know, the X1s definitely has like a higher maximum resistance. Taking a look at the tubing diameter of the Joroto X1 handlebar thickness, it looks like it's about 10.5 centimeters thick. Over here on the Joroto X2, they measure to be 10 centimeters thick. So the handlebars are in fact a little bit thicker on the new X1s version of the Joroto. And you do get this like really big tablet holder on the X1s, whereas you can put a tablet over here on the X2 as well, and it'll work just fine. You just probably won't be able to put water bottles in your water bottle holders up here. Looking again over here at the handlebar height, they're both on max height. They definitely come considerably higher on the Joroto X2 in comparison to the X1s. So obviously the Joroto X1s is quite a bit less money. So really it just kind of comes down to a question of, do you want friction resistance or magnetic resistance? So the friction resistance on the Joroto X1s, you do get like a higher maximum resistance, but the Joroto X2, you do get a smoother feeling resistance. And in terms of displays, they basically give you like the same metrics, except for the big one, Cadence. You get Cadence over here on this better looking display on the X1s. So, I mean, if you wanted to get Cadence on the other one, obviously, you know, add your own Cadence sensor like the Wahoo Cadence sensor. In terms of the flywheels, the flywheel on the X1s is listed at 35 pounds, and that is the same exact weight listed for the Joroto X2 flywheel mass. So I mean, it really just kind of depends on your personal situation on which bike is gonna be better for you. I mean, both of them have micro adjustments for raising and lowering the handlebar. The big difference is if you are tall, the X2 is probably gonna fit you better than the X1s. If you're looking for an indoor cycling bike just to kind of get started in indoor cycling and something to get a workout in the convenience of your own home, the Joroto X1 is a pretty good option for the price point. Like I mentioned before, at the time of this recording, it is listed at $340. I don't know what the current pricing is. I do have a link below this video in the description box. And also I do have a discount code available in the description box below the video. So you guys let me know what questions or comments do you have about the Joroto X1s or Joroto X2. Leave me a comment down in the comment section below. And if this video has been helpful to you, please give me a thumbs up, click that subscribe button, and I'll see you in my next video.